Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Open Network User Group podcast. I'm Mark Tierney, the ONUG Working Group CTO. Today, we're continuing the ONUG Security blog series. And I've got three great guests joining me to further the discussion of Zero Trust. All right, but first, hey, don't forget Spring 2022. ONUG Spring 2022 will be a hybrid event at the Meadowlands Expo Center, New Jersey. It's going to be a fantastic experience. We got a lot of interesting stuff going on, including live demonstrations. Join the ONUG community of Global 2000 companies, enterprise architects, cloud providers, and thought leaders as we explore the building blocks required to create flexible, transformative IT business platforms. Go to onug.net to register for this event today. All right, great. So joining me today is, we're going to get started with Forrest Bennett. Forrest, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Mark. How about you? Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. It seems like we were just here, and because we were just here 2 weeks ago. Forrest is the cybersecurity advisor at FedEx and Cloud Native Security Working Group co-chair. Forrest, one of the things that we're dealing with in Cloud Native is this whole concept around Zero Trust. We had a great session. It was second in the series with Mooted. And I think this one's not going to be, or it's going to be just as great. And thanks for helping me, be the cruise director on this. So let's bring in Marina Segal. Marina is the chief executive officer and co-founder at a stealth startup. We can't talk about it. If we did, Marina would have us killed, and that's the way it is. So, Marina, it's great to have you with us. I know you're going to offer a lot to this conversation. And the conversation really settled around the latest blog in the series, primary author, Mark Fishburn. Mark is the president of MarketWord. And, we're pleased to have Mark with us. Mark, thanks for joining the podcast today.
It's great to be here.
So let me just say, right off the bat, the Cloud Native Security Working Group at ONUG is probably one of the most intellectual working groups that we have. It's hard for a guy like me to keep up with this crew. Forrest, what makes this team work? I mean, in your opinion?
We've all been around for a while. I think we're one of the oldest working groups that's sustained itself. We've gone through a couple of name changes, but I take no credit for leadership or any of that. I just like to be around the guys like you because I too find it hard to keep up sometimes from the intellectual aspect of it. But everybody brings a different set of experiences and a different set of skill sets. And so always we have lively debate, and it's always also very friendly and very cordial. We cut up with one another, and it keeps it rolling.
Well, we do have a good time, but it is, let's be honest, it's about the content. Marina, you're kind of new blood to the team, if I can say that. And do you mind give us just a quick impression, as you've joined the team, what's working from your perspective? Marina, can you hear us?
Knowledge sharing is incredible. Part of me joining in middle of the Zero Trust brainstorming sessions was very inspiring for me because I'm not coming from this specific domain of security. But there are industry experts who can talk about how it's done in the practical appliance of the methodologies. I think that's the most incredible thing that happens in the group.
Yeah, I think you hit it. And by the way, Mark Fishburn, I'm sorry that Forrest, talked about, the age of the group when, as though you weren't here. So sorry for that. I can't believe Forrest is being that insensitive, but
that's all right. I've been around a little bit. I'm used to it.
And so that's the perfect segue, though, right into the title of your blog, which was Zero Trust, an overnight sensation, decades later, right? And so this concept of zero trust is not new to you. It's not lost on you. What were you trying to accomplish when you wrote this blog?
Well, it's really to be a contribution to people's understanding and to know what it is, what it isn't, where it came from, and really how to begin the journey of implementation, amidst lots of marketing hype. and the fact that it's a really growing concept right now.
Where do you think people are missing it in this concept right now? Are they is it just confusion, misunderstanding? Is it an academic problem, not understanding what the real issue is? What's what's the problem in this space right now?
I think there's a number of kind of myths about it. I think people have been getting onto the idea that zero trust is a thing, a system, or turning it into a product, adding to what they've already got, and then selling it as a product. And I think that is really against what zero trust is about. It's a strategy, it's a set of principles to apply, and that's really it. And the fact is that zero trust is really one part of a holistic approach to cybersecurity. And it covers, which covers asset management, et cetera. And the belief is you do zero trust and then you can forget about it. But it's not like that at all. It's really also a myth that it's applicable in the same way to everything, when it really applies to many layers of control and data plane points in workflows. So there's many different ways it could be implemented. And the key is to take out what the gems are and what these important principles are of zero trust and applying them. And I think that's what this article looks to do, to come up with some of these ideas.
So, Marina, one of the key elements at the beginning of the blog, Mark's talking about just the changing landscape, of course, right? COVID certainly had something to say about what was happening in the landscape itself, but the entire fabric, I can't say it happened overnight, but rapidly it seems like threats went from things we could deal with in that moat mentality, right, perimeter mentality, to no one knows where the perimeter is anymore, and how do we deal with that? What's your take on how the enterprise and then how the market is responding to that? I love putting people on the spot. Questions like that. Part of my charm, by the way.
I think there are a lot of positive movements in the market and in technology that, on the one hand, make it easier to do security and zero trust. And there are a lot of things that make it very challenges at the same time. So I like to start with the positive note. And I think the fact that we have very solid APIs, a lot of great integration capabilities, a lot of technology that helps to connect to the cloud environments and the technologies surrounding it, I think it makes a lot of things that we couldn't do before possible, security-wise. We can implement basically any solution these days because of the advanced APIs and the technologies. On the other hand, we need to decide how to do it and what solutions we need to develop and how to protect those many new perimeters that change all the time, and get more visibility and observability into our environments. And that's making it more challenging because there is no way you can continue with point of time checks or assessments in this dynamic world where a container can live for milliseconds. So the level of challenges is definitely more significant, but also the levels of the sophistication in solutions we can ship is helping us to be positive that the problems are solvable.
Well, I like the paradigm shift you brought up about the non-static nature of our workloads and our infrastructure. How whether it's containers or serverless or whatever it is, these things are popping in and out of existence at lots of different places. So, Mark, I mean, part of your initiative here is like to point out why it's critical now. Is that it? Like, are there What are
Well,
what are the
I think it's kind of a perfect storm. Clearly, that the movement to the cloud, and now more recently hybrid cloud, is really an element, and also it's been accelerated by COVID with distributed workforce is now become a permanent hybrid workforce. It's basically shattered this, the network perimeter, and that it's now fragmented into many different areas, been eliminated, so that there are now lots of attack surfaces throughout the network. I mean, the good news about that is it's easy to protect a small area rather than the whole network. And that's really why zero trust has come about, because that situation has exposed our world to the emergence of criminal and state-sponsored cyber crimes, and it's everywhere. It's within and across the organization. So to resonate with what Marina has been saying, this really lends itself as to why it's important now. It's interesting that when we did publish the published blog, just a few days later, the Office of the President of the United States published a memorandum covering the government movement towards zero trust cybersecurity principles. So it's in the air, as it were, and it's led to looking to see what are the common principles of zero trust that could be applied to workflows, or within a layer 2 networking going on, or in the area of access control, which is one of the main principles, which I'd like to segue to if you want to do
Well,
that.
I'm going to let you segue. Hold, but far be it for me to pick a fight.
Oh,
but,
good.
But I want to pick two fights, and I'm going to bring Forrest in. So Mark said something, and Marina said something that I want to challenge a little bit, and I want to see if Forrest agrees or disagrees. So Mark said it's easier, or it can be easier to protect a smaller what's the term, Mark? Sorry, attack surface, right?
Attack surface, yeah.
Is that true?
And it's probably cheaper.
Is that true? I mean, just because it's smaller is better. Is that your experience, or
It used to be, but the perimeter's been disappearing for a long time. And now the attack surface is any object. And the idea of zero trust, as Mark's title to his blog article states, it goes back decades. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
What has sped up its immediate adoption and the philosophy in trying to implement solutions has been, hands down, COVID and work from home. To borrow a byline from ONUG's co-founder and our current leader, Nick Lippis, from his keynote address in last year, I think it was. We grew a second internet overnight. We literally did. And we sent everybody home in the workforce, and that opened up this huge new arena for the bad guys to play in. So yes, the attack surface immediately doubled, but protecting it is just as hard if it's a single server in a data center or a perimeter around a data center as it is to protecting a single device with a zero trust approach.
So I'm going to use this to segue into something I want to talk to Marina about. But the surface, the attack surface has changed, but at the same time, so has all these attack vectors, right? Like the edge has created its own, whether it's a nefarious agents of foreign governments or whatever it is. I mean, we have so many new nodes, if you will, that those attacks can come from, right? So no one expected, 6 years ago that a network of refrigerators and dishwashers, were going to be the launch point for, these types of attacks. And yet that's what it is. And they're smaller platforms, but we don't know that much about them. And that gets to my question to Marina, which is, we've got some good APIs, but the edge is changed with a lot of new, compute platforms, if that's what we want to call them, or just edge IoT platforms. I mean, what kind of complexity is that, introduced to this whole concept of zero trust. And by the way, some of the manufacturers of that of that, those vectors, boy, they're rookies, right? I mean, they're rookies. They don't know. Am I being unfair?
No, you're definitely spot on. The challenge right now, those devices and the IoT security is definitely one of the areas of security that still needs to have more standardization, more standards, and better industry collaboration, if you will, because that is that is the next digital revolution that we are part of. Because right now I can turn on my oven from my device, and what does that mean? How it can influence the security of my kids who are staying home. So the security of these infrastructures is definitely getting another level and another meanings, especially with everything that is going on in the world right now. So I think the way that COVID helped the digital transformation in some cases, I think we will be seeing a lot of advancements and a lot of new technologies evolving and maturing during the next period of time for the IoT security.
All right, that's perfect. So it's a good segue into, Mark. You want to talk about fundamentals, right? So let's do that now. What are the fundamentals?
I will do,
this is
but
blocking and tackling, to use this sports vernacular, right? What's important?
Yeah, I will do that. I do want to actually add to what Marina said, if I may, first, because a lot of these devices, these so-called IoT devices, are so-called, because they're really legacy things like traffic lights and cameras and security things and monitoring devices. They are now part of this equation. And you question the intelligence in some of these legacy devices. It's very important, because I think the number one hindrance to adoption is really how you deal with legacy systems and legacy devices, and particularly to move to the fundamentals here. It's really, what is important is establishing. One of the first fundamentals is, how do you establish a policy for who and what has access to what and who, and for how long? So it's users, devices, and software, and how long that access is authorized. So it's the policy is probably one of the most difficult technical things, and it's a fundamental. The second one is identity, access management, and authentication. So those are critical, that these devices, the people and the software are properly identified, and their access is managed and authenticated depending on what the policy is that applies to that particular person or user or piece of software. And thirdly, how all of that policy is being managed to control access either at a specific physical or virtual enforcement point. And lastly, the ongoing monitoring of what's going on here, so you can actually audit how well the security is being implemented. It's very time sensitive, because you may want to authorize something to happen for a period of time, and you really want to know when things are attempted out of that time band or whatever it is. So those are the four fundamentals. It's policy, identity management, policy management, and monitoring.
So can I jump in here?
You don't need permission to do it.
I was going to say, absolutely, number one and number two. And in the virtual world, in cloud and container technology, it's much easier to manage the identity and the access from there. When you jump over the fence into the IoT world, back into legacy hardware systems, it's much, much harder to change those things, to patch them, to keep them updated, because most of them are pieces of hardware that have a specialized job, and they're programmable logic controllers that are not plugged in many cases to the internet.
Or don't have an IP interface even for us.
Yes. And you have to be able to patch those devices as well, and make sure that they're connecting to only the things that they're supposed to connect to, and the things that are connecting to them are actually identifying themselves as the correct connection point. And as Mark pointed out, a lot of this is not at the IP layer. They don't have IP addresses. They use different ports and different protocols than regular networking devices that we're used to dealing with. So there was a big fork in the road. The cloud environment, the virtual SDN world is easier to adopt a zero trust stance and say, yes, we're doing this. We're protecting our workloads with this point solution for our servers, this point solution for our containers. Hopefully those 2-point solutions are compatible and complementary. And then we're protecting our IoT estate and all of the hardware and legacy equipment that's out there with a different solution. So it's not all in one. And I think that that's really the key to Mark's article. There is no single solution that you can just throw the term zero trust on top of and say, yes, we fundamentally have a zero trust environment, because nobody does.
I think that's really one of the main points.
I appreciate simple metaphors and visuals, because for my simple mind it works, right? So you said the who and the what, getting to the what and the who, like these are important things that it makes it easy for a guy like me to understand. But you talked about some challenges, right? These fundamental things that we've got to keep our eye on the ball. When I hear you talk about policy, and Marina, I'm going to ask you to sort of dive in on give your impression on these things. But when I hear policy and policy management and keeping up with observability at the same time that the scope is changing dramatically, maybe even exponentially, right? When I look at what the enterprise is going through, I think still going through, but in the early days of cloud, in the early days of CI/CD, and us trying to iterate, right? And out of the days of waterfall and going from how do we do X number of changes a week to 1,000x changes a week, right? That doesn't scale unless you make fundamental changes to process, right? And so here's my question to the group, and I'm going to put it. Marina's going to hate me when I'm done with all this, because I put her on the spot. When we have to address things like this, I mean, can the market respond and help the enterprise to deal with the scope? I hear us talking about, again, policy change, policy management. Now it's, maybe it looked like this before and it's like this today. Are we equipped to do that? What's got to change to help us?
Well, I think we definitely equipped with. We've done it before in other setups. We have everything as a code working in the cloud. We can make changes to the policies through Terraforms, and we can make changes to the configurations as part of CI/CD lifecycle. So the concepts and the technology is there. Now it's on us to make sure that with IoT or any other new technology that we bring into the world, we apply the same principles. And make sure that each service or each API or the user that has been added to this environment has limited set of permissions, for example, and that can be achieved through automation and bringing security as left as possible in the development lifecycle. I don't see a difference.
So that gives me hope. How about Forrest, though? Do you feel like the enterprise is well positioned? What I just heard Marina say was, hey, we've learned this lesson once in other areas. Make it work in this new space. Do you think the enterprise is positioned to do that? How do we get this iterative approach to scale around security? Does it resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. I think that forward-looking and forward-thinking enterprises that are focused on technology at the core of their business, not necessarily on what they produce or, dare I say, what they drop off on your front porch. If they're focused on the back-end systems and automating those, that's the only way that this can be addressed. I mean, if you go back to and think about the guy with the abacus, look what a PC did.
I resent that.
Look what a PC did for an abacus. It made computing numbers that could have only been done one at a time, into a scalable model where now we're building spreadsheets and databases. And leap ahead 40 years after that, and now you've got cloud-based virtual systems that are, data lakes created by the likes of GCP and AWS and our service providers that we couldn't have imagined 40 years ago. And the only way to keep up with securing all of that data, securing all the input points, is through automation. Marina said it spot on. You can't address this from a human standpoint. We're not capable, no matter how smart we are or how fast we work. We've got to be able to take that and adapt it into an API-based tool in a virtual environment that can learn from itself and grow by itself.
An abacus got us to the moon, pal. So just watch it. Oh, wait, that was a slide rule. Never mind. Mark.
Yeah.
Myths floating around
Well, I think we discussed some at the beginning, but I think I want to kind of slightly re-ask your last question about, there's this big thing and how do we handle it? I think you have to break it down into all the different opportunities to implement zero trust and say what applies here in this particular point or this particular application, and then to see how and it's all applied using the principles, because I think that's the way around it. And are we equipped to do that? Then I think, like anything else, you should expect to look for security either with expertise, either within your organization, which is a huge challenge, or start to involve experts who are practiced in implementing zero trust and getting through some of the challenges that we talked about earlier. And then it becomes, you're biting this this animal one at a piece at a time, not trying to say, well, everything's got to be zero trust. It's like everything else. Security is really about eliminating the weakest link. And when you've done that, find the next weakest link and keep going at it. It's never going to stop, really. So you just need to find what the weakest link is in the organization or needs protection, fix that, and go on to the next one. Thank you very much. And, it's really what this paper is about here, is to really take people who are looking for guidance to understand, what can be managed, what should be managed, and the fact that it's never completely handled, and what you should protect and have that addressed using the principles. So that's really what this paper is actually breaking things down into pieces and seeing how you can bite them off one piece at a time.
So as we progress through this, let's say everyone's doing a great job in adopting these first of all the culture, right, and then the methodology. Is there a risk of performance issues associated with going this direction? And I'll even broaden this concept a little bit. That there's probably concern that we're going to do more security things, whatever those security things are technically, and they'll create potential performance overhead in our existing processes. My guess is also maybe cultural, technical overhead. Are we creating more technical debt in this, and does that pile on? What's your take on the performance implications of doing zero trust? Mark?
So yeah, in from that point of view, there are more powerful processes which are geared up for doing this. And a good example is when data arrives at the edge of the network, the more that you can actually process it before it hits, say, a firewall or something like that, and do some in-depth analysis or deep packet inspection. And the processing power of devices to do that is being rapidly increased. And that actually takes a lot of the burden off. And it also increases the effective bandwidth that you can use of these networks. So it actually moves and spreads the burden around a little bit, so that in fact you end up having more performance available. And that's a quick answer to that. But I'm pretty confident. I had shared that same concern at the beginning. The more I found out about what's going on with compute power, the more I was more optimistic about it, I would say.
So, Marina, we still have to do work, and we have to do this work in a new way. Nobody's perfect. Are there some common, in your experience, are there some common mistakes that are being made? Like, are we not thinking about zero trust in the right way in some cases? Are we performing misconfigurations? Are we architecting properly where we need to do all the time? What's your take on how successful we're being at zero trust? What's your thought there?
Um, I don't see a zero trust as some unique area of security. I think that overall, security industry has a lot of improvement opportunities. What I notice is that it's not enough to only focus on technology. It's always technology, people, and process problem. And there is a tendency to think that if we will implement yet another tool, it will solve all of our problems. There is no cookie cutter solutions there. Every company needs to understand, and every industry kind of leaders needs to understand that it's not only about the fact that there is some tool that can solve some of the problems in security. There is also an adoption and the process that needs to come with it. So I think our focus should also be on how do we make the technology operational? How do we take the pieces that we think are important for the company and bring it into the processes of the company and make people use those tools and solutions with the expertise needed?
So one of those tools is, like posture management type tooling. Is that, I'm not suggesting that's the only type of tool, but give us a flavor, and this is for everybody. Give us a flavor. What kind of tools? And let's avoid vendors if we can, but just maybe chat about the types of tools at the generic level that are important, or enterprises should be keeping their eye on. Anybody want to take a shot at that?
Sure, I'll go. So, first of all, I'll step back to another what used to be a marketing term, defense in depth. Defense in depth is what we still have to adhere to. That doesn't mean zero trust is not a part of that, but zero trust as a model and a philosophy is not a panacea for all of our security needs or challenges at the moment. So, with defense in depth, you've got to think about things like network segmentation at its core. Don't have a big flat network. Microsegmentation. There are now tools available that allow us to, as security operations professionals, the nirvana I always look for was how can I manage a firewall on every device in my network so that I'm the person that writes the policy, my team manages the policy to make sure that that device only talks to, or that application or that microservice only talks to the things it needs to talk to. So microsegmentation. Then you step up to zero trust.
Michelle, can you please be quiet?
And also to
Michelle.
To Stacey.
Hold on. Hey, Mark, you were unmuted there, pal.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. We'll cut that out. Don't worry about it.
So from zero trust network access up to secure access, secure edge. I know I blew that one from the actual acronym, but basically securing the edge, identity management for all of that on the outside. So security is an onion, defense in depth. You have to add layers upon layers upon layers so that the bad guys have to unpeel layers upon layers upon layers. And then you can do things that some companies are doing with I've lost the term. Basically, technology that pushes them off into a sandbox and makes them spin their wheels, doing nothing in a honeypot type situation. There's a I forget what the term for that is. Deception technology. Sorry.
That's okay.
But all of those things together help to build a defense in depth position in an enterprise or government agency or a cloud service provider at that level needs to look at security from that standpoint, in my opinion.
Nice. Marina, what do you think? Are we properly equipped with tools? Is posture management it? What's your take on what the enterprise needs?
Yeah, first of all, I think enterprises need to decide what's their priority based on their environments and the risk appetite and the projects they're working on. The tools are there, the technology. If we know how to make the technology operational, we can solve most of the problems these days that enterprises are facing. As I said before, it's about the people and the process where we're still lacking the ability to execute fast with the technology that is being put out there. It's not enough to just buy a CSPM solution. It's not going to solve all of the problems. It will detect it. It will give the visibility and observability to the companies. But the technology-wise, CASBs, CSPMs, vulnerability management, all of those tools can help implementing some of the concepts for the zero trust principles. And it's on companies to decide what's important to them, which risks they want to tackle first in the next cycle of security projects.
Nice. All right. These things tend to go fast. So, Mark, final thoughts. You're muted, buddy. One more time. I'm going to reset. 3, 2, 1. Hey, these podcasts go by fast. I want to make sure that the author of this blog, Mark, gets his final thoughts in. Mark, what do you want to leave us with today?
Well, I really want to take people to a world where they have got security better understood, better managed, if never completely handled. So in the spirit of doing things a piece at a time in here, I think that this is an important approach that is the most proactive way of addressing cybersecurity today, is the implementation of zero trust.
And the best way to do that is to educate yourself. And one of the ways you can educate yourself is getting involved with ONUG, right? So that's my call to action. And again, Forrest as the co-chair of the Cloud Native Security Working Group. It's just a fantastic team to get involved with. You're going to get to hang out with cool people like Mark, Marina, and Forrest on a regular basis and have some pretty rousing debates. And by the way, Mark was the author of this article, but he had a lot of editorial support. Is that fair, Mark, from the entire team?
It was great, yeah.
Yeah, and we worked together. And I think actually next up is I think we got an article coming from you, Marina, right? Is that right?
That's right.
Do we have a title? Do we have a title for your blog entry?
Yeah, it's about the cloud security posture maturity level. And I'm hoping to shed some light on how to identify how mature you are in your CSPM journey for the companies.
Nice. That's perfect. All right. Thanks again. Thanks to Forrest, to Marina, to Mark for being with us today on the ONUG podcast. And don't forget, the ONUG community of Global 2000 companies. We're coming together April 27th and 28th at ONUG Spring 2022. We're going to be doing some incredible work. First time we'll be doing live demos at the conference. One of the things that we're saying is, where did I learn it? Hold on, let me get it for you. It works because you saw it at ONUG, and we're going to be doing live demonstrations. Both the CSNF, you can see behind me, the Cloud Security Notification Framework. Probably the biggest thing we've got going on at ONUG right now is a huge open source initiative to help enterprises be multi-cloud and be able to consume multi-cloud. And part of that is through reducing the toil associated with consuming disparate non-normalized messaging from CSPs. So you'll see a live demonstration of our MVP solution of the Cloud Security Notification Framework at ONUG Spring 2022. We'll also have our orchestration automation working group doing live demonstrations there and a whole bunch of other stuff, including a DevOps conference inside of a conference going on as well. So join us April 27th and 28th for ONUG Spring 2022. On behalf of the ONUG community, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you on the next ONUG podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yo.
Hi. I'm really sorry about that. I'm not fluent in this thing, and I thought I'd turn the mic off because.
Okay. I got some cleanup. I got some cleanup work to do anyway. So that's no sweat.
I'm particularly sorry to Forrest because I went straight over you. I'm really sorry about that. Do you want to kind of redo Forrest's piece again, or can you clean it up?
I'll clean it up because he repeated it. Don't worry about it.
I'm sorry. I thought I'd muted my mic and it was not the mic that was being used in the thing. So
don't worry about it.
I trust Ernie. He'll cut out the things that I should have said anyway.
That's right. When he gets uppity and stuff, I just cut him out. So I don't know if Andrea, you still on?
I am.
Hey there. So I don't know if you when it's convenient for you, if you get me access to the MP4.
Sure.
I'll clean it up. How'd we do from your perspective?
It was good.
Had a few glitches.
Great. Yeah, I cut off the ONUG slide a little too early. I didn't.
Even stuff like that, it's easy for me to fix. So it's
right.
No problem at all.
Okay, we're good. We're going to end broadcast.
Yeah, we're good. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again. Appreciate it.